Welcome back to Business Bliss Workshop. I am so grateful to be here with you all. We are here to help you own your goals and truly learn the keys to manifesting and goal achievement throughout the workshop. So, before we dive into the pre bonus session today on how to own your sales funnel, I just want to run through some rules that we use in Business Bliss. So, there's some key things with Business Bliss Workshop that we all want to do the entire time. They say it really takes about 72 hours to change your energy, your frequency, to raise your vibes. And so we're going to all start today and we're going to hold it throughout the entire workshop. And the idea is that there's always two sides of the coin that we can look at, the positive or the negative. Positive is to be in a state of possibility. Negative is fear, worry, doubt, guilt, shame, resentment, all the negative emotions. And so, at any moment in time, as long as we're conscious, we can begin to choose to stay on the positive and possibility side of the coin. So, for today only, starting today, I'm going to ask you to go on a mental diet. And we're only going to entertain the thoughts, feelings, and actions and habits that will move us closer to our goal and that are in alignment with our goal. Now, as you go to decide on your goal, we know that fear, worry, and doubt, and comparisonitis and imposter syndrome, all that begins to show up. And it's literally just your ego because it's trying to keep you safe and the same. So you're going to observe as the thoughts come up and we're going to cancel them. So just for today, we're going to go on a mental diet and we're going to expect everything to work out for us. And I want you just to play the game for today. And then tomorrow you get up and you get to do it again just for tomorrow. You're going to stay in that state of possibility. So that's our number one rule throughout the entire workshop so that we begin to own our mind. So you're going to practice being an observer of all the thoughts that come up. And we're only going to choose to get involved with the ones that make us feel good and the thoughts that are going to move us closer towards our goal. And then we're going to cancel everything else. Okay, number one rule for the workshop, we're all going to start today. And just for today, we're going to expect magic and miracles and expect everything to work out for us. Because what if it does? What magic can we begin to create together? So now that we got that out of the way, reminder, we are live with our 3 key sessions Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday next week, the 16th to the 18th. And we will be going through the 4 keys of manifesting and goal achievement: ideas, thought, plan, and action. How do we get new results? It all starts with a new idea, which is going to trigger new thoughts. And then we're going to put a plan into place and we're going to start with the end in mind. And we're going to reverse engineer that plan and get into an inspired action that's going to breed us the largest result with the least amount of time and the least amount of effort. And then on Thursday next week, we have an open house mastermind session. So you can come and network with everyone in the community, as well as bring anything you need support on, and we're all going to help each other. And then on Friday next week, we have a bonus belief session. And that's Friday the 20th. And I'm super excited about that because we're also going to go through heart-led sales. So we're going to use an NLP technique to sell you on your own dreams, which is also a good tool to be able to use with your prospective clients to get them emotionally involved in the impact of working with you and the impact of if they don't. But first, you have to believe and buy into your dream and goals. And then on the 23rd, on the Monday, we have our bonus recap session. So you can join us all the sessions live. That would be amazing. And if not, we will have the replays up for a limited time. And we do have prizes and gifts to give away. So every time you attend live, you book your vision casting call or a strategy call, or you refer someone to the workshop, you're going to go into the draw for prizes. And we're going to give away prizes next week. And so without further ado, if there aren't any questions, we're going to dive into our owning our sales funnel lesson today. And so with this, there's really 3 keys. There's the branding, the marketing, and then your sales or connections database. So your branding and your messaging is what's going to drive and create your marketing. Your marketing strategy is what you're going to use to generate leads and qualified leads. If your branding's on point, your marketing is on point, and not only will it generate leads, it will generate qualified leads. Then we're going to take all those leads and all those connections, and we're going to put them into a database, some kind of tracker. And this is really a relationship tracker, because the truth is, sales is relationships. And not everyone at every point in time is going to be ready to buy or work with you. So we want to nurture the relationship, support our prospective clients until they are ready to work with us, or we decide they're not qualified. And so everyone that you're connecting with, they're going to go into that relationship tracker. And the magic in doing this is when you can start to track where you are in the relationship with your leads, you can start to build sales on demand. You could be able to show up to your tracker today and say, these 5 people are ready for a pivot point. So you're ready to invite them, to ask them to work with you, come to an event or something, and then you can move into that sales conversation. Often a lot of people start the sales conversation before the rapport, the qualifying, and the nurturing is done. And then it kind of impacts the relationship and the trust in the relationship, and then the sale isn't made. And so we want to learn to be patient with sales, because only about 3 to 5% of people are in their buying cycle at a time. And so 3% of that list today would be ready to shop and buy from you. And then tomorrow, a whole nother 3%. So what if you could start to build out a qualified list of 100 to 1,000 to 2,000 people that you could be able to go through and begin to nurture, so that you could show up and get sales on demand on a daily. So let's go back to the top and start to talk about branding. Now, if you go and you look at any business, they've built a brand and people have a relationship with that brand. Now, what are the things they use to help build the brand? And so I'm just going to go through these questions today, and I want you to actually, whether you think about them or you fill them out yourself, I want you to answer these questions. And so number 1, what are your top 3 pillars that represent your brand? So think about that for a second. So this means 3 key themes that represent your brand. So for us, it's personal mastery, business mastery, and transformation. And we do this all holistically. So what would be your 3? If you're live here in the Zoom room, you're welcome to ask questions. And if you're catching us on Facebook, you want to go over to ownitempire.com and check out Business Bliss and get registered so you can join us and ask questions. So what are your 3 key pillars that represent your brand? And these are going to be the theme throughout your brand, and how people are going to start to know your brand and build a relationship with that brand. So 3 key pillars. Now, I want to ask you, what would be 3 sub pillars? So for us, it's skill set, mindset, and high performance habits. And technically, we actually have 5. We also do accountability and community. And all of that falls under self-mastery, business mastery, and transformation. So business mastery, we do skill set. Self-mastery, high performance habits, and mindset. And then together with accountability and community through our masterminds, we help make sure you keep your promises to yourself. And so those are some of our key pillars. Now, this is where your branding and your messaging is going to come from. These right here are theme buckets that you can create content around. And then, of course, the most important next question is, who is your ideal customer? So this can change and grow and evolve with you over time, just as your business will grow and evolve, just as you will grow and evolve. But in this current moment, whether you have a business idea and you're thinking about who is that prospective client, or you already have a business and you maybe have a favorite client you've worked with, what would it do for you and your business if you had 100 more of these clients? And the only way we can attract them is know who they are so we can create our messaging that speaks to that ideal client. And so, thinking about that ideal customer, you want to think of a few things: psychosocial, where are they hanging out? What social channels are they hanging out on? What are some of their buying making decisions? And then the next key thing is, what is the number one problem you solve for this ideal client? So if I were to ask you to think about your ideal client, imagine they're using a Google or a search engine. What do you think's the problem they're searching that they want solved? And I ask this way so that you begin to think in their language. Because I know you're all amazing and you all have your own zone of genius. And we also, usually in our own zone of genius, we have our own jargon that we use. Yet that's not necessarily what the ideal client is saying. So, what do you think in their language is the number one problem that they want solved right now? People are going to buy something to gain something or avoid a loss. So, what do you think they're trying to gain? And what do you think they're trying to avoid? So, for us, I know our clients are trying to build a full time business, release their jobs. They have maybe launched a business and they want to scale it. And all of these come down to they want increased revenue and increased sales. Now, that's a byproduct of having your branding and your marketing and your sales database in place. And I'm going to create content around helping to close more sales and increase your revenue so you can serve more people. And then I'm going to teach on the keys that would actually help solve that problem. So, in your client's language, what is that number one problem you're helping them solve? And you're welcome to share. Like, please drop it in the chat. If you know, drop it in the chat. I'd love to see. And now let's work a little bit on our messaging. So, the two key things I always want people to have put together is their podcast pitch, or what they would call their elevator pitch, and your story. And so, the podcast pitch: who you are and what do you do, who you help, how you help them, and the results you help them get. So, who are you and what do you do? Who do you help? How do you help them? And what are the results you help them get? Because remember, people are looking for the results. So, what are the results you help people get? And then the final part of that is, what is your mission, your vision, and your why? Great question. So, how to find out in their language, is it a problem that they are not aware of? So, you might know, because I can speak to what your product is. It's a vitamin K. So, they may not be aware that they're vitamin K deficient, yet there will be symptoms of this deficiency. So, their problem is probably speaking about solving these symptoms. So you would speak to the symptoms, would be probably their number one problem they're looking to get solved. And then you're going to actually provide the solution to them. Right? So we want to think about it in their language. What is the problem that they want solved? Then we may ask ourselves, what is the actual true problem that's causing this problem. So what's going on behind what's going on? And that's where usually you come in. So for an example, if somebody is struggling with stress, weight gain, eye twitches, being up at night, not being able to sleep in the morning, a lot of that is adrenals, and then that would be nervous system. And so you may talk to them about being overwhelmed or having sleep issues. But what you're actually going to do with them is help reset their nervous system. So that's where the marketing comes in, because you're actually going to work on educating the audience. So you're going to say, hey, are you struggling with this? Yet, did you know this is actually the root cause? Here's a strategy that I use, and here is 3 ways to help you solve that. And you could give tips like, here's 3 foods for yourself. You could say, here's 3 foods to help increase vitamin K. Yet we know that it's harder. We know there's a difference between digesting and absorbing. So are you actually absorbing and assimilating? Don't worry, we have it in a powder form. It'll get absorbed right away. So this is your best way. Go and purchase it today. Okay, so see how we want to understand from their point of view what that problem is. And then ask if that's the actual problem, right? So people say they want more sales, but sales is a byproduct of certain activities, having your branding and your marketing and actually tracking your leads and building relationships. And then that will help with more sales. So I'm going to speak to the sales and the increase in revenue. And then I'm actually going to solve the root cause that's going to solve their problem. Is that helpful? Yeah, good. Awesome. Because the biggest thing is when we get into marketing, your number one job is to get their attention. And we can only get their attention if we're speaking in their language and speaking to the problems they want solved. And then we can then actually give them what they need. So just coming back to the podcast. Yeah, you're welcome. Coming back to the podcast pitch for a second. So who you are and what do you do? Who you help, how you help them, the results you help them get, and then your mission, your vision, your why. Why do you do what you do? Only 10 to 12% of the population is willing to be an entrepreneur. And even smaller of that is our conscious entrepreneurs. And so why are you showing up to do what more than 90% of the population is not willing to do? Your why is what is going to not only important to share with the world, but it's actually what's going to have you show up when things aren't so easy and when you're having your ups and your downs and your highs and your lows. It's your why that's going to keep you going. So not only important to be able to share, it's really important for you to know. And then I wanted you guys to start to work on storytelling. And so this goes with the branding, and it also is going to, again, drive your marketing. So one of the templates I love to use is before I, and then I realized, so then I, and now I. So for an example, before I used to work 7 days a week, 18-hour days, and I literally couldn't work any harder. And then I realized it's because I was in a trade your time for money model, and I was capped with the amount of people I could serve, the amount of hours I had in a day, and the amount of money I could earn. So then I realized I needed to have a one-to-many model as well as a one-to-one model. So then I launched an online group coaching program. And now I have been coaching conscious entrepreneurs online for over 5 years to help achieve their goals, to step into the better version of themselves, stop being their own glass ceiling, and actually build a business around their dream life that leaves them happy and fulfilled. So the template for that is before I, then I realized, so then I, and now I. So before I, ... what was the struggle? And then I realized, what did you realize? What had to change? And so then what did you do to start that change? And now what do you do? So any questions on that before we go forward? And this might take some time. So I know all you amazing people are making notes. This might take some time for you to complete and go through. And as you evolve, your brand evolves. So this is not a one and done. This is a regularly review as you expand and grow, because you will most likely pivot your business every few years as you evolve and grow. So it's important to revisit the branding. Absolutely great question. Can we have multiple stories? 100%. So I have multiple stories always prepared. It can depend on the audience, the theme. What am I talking about? Maybe one podcast guest I'm guesting and I'm talking more about um, transforming yourself and not being your own glass ceiling. Then I would talk about how I kept having multiple things kept showing up for me to keep me in the same spot or yet worse. And then I realized it's because I literally couldn't work harder. I actually had to work with the unconscious mind so that my results changed on the outside. So then I studied with Bob Proctor and Landmark and did my NLP, timeline therapy, and hypnotherapy certifications. And now I have a completely different life than 3 years ago prior to truly working with my unconscious mind. And I stopped attracting horrible experiences that kept sending me back to where I was before. And instead, I'm progressively moving forward. So, yes, absolutely can have multiple different stories. And storytelling is really good to be able to market and get points across and get people emotionally involved, because the emotion is energy in motion, and it is one of the key things we need to have in sales. Because if people aren't emotionally involved in the impact of working with you or not working with you, then it stays a someday, right? They need to get emotionally connected to, like, what is on the other side of this yes? What is available for me? And then as we wrap up the branding part for now, I want you really to think about when people interact with your brand, how do you want them to feel? So the pillars we talked about and the feeling you want to leave people with, this is going to drive your marketing. So some people might want to have people feel really empowered every time they interact with your brand. Or maybe you want them to feel educated. And so they keep learning more about themselves and how they can take care of themselves and be a better version of themselves. And so there's a feeling and a relationship that people will build with your brand. And what do you want that to be? For us, one of our key themes is be in a state of possibility. And we kicked off this workshop today with talking exactly about that, the importance of being in a state of possibility. And if you were doing Business Bliss, you didn't know, but you now know that you've agreed for the entirety of the workshop to only be in a state of possibility. And anytime any negative thoughts come up, fear, worry, doubt, we're just going to cancel it. And we're going on a mental diet today, because anything and everything is only created via a state of possibility. And entrepreneurs, we create something from nothing. And so in order for that to happen, we have to be the crazy people who actually believe in it, which require us to be in a state of possibility. Okay, so what is the feeling you want people to feel? I want you to be in that state of possibility. I want you to feel empowered. We want you to feel knowledge and access to knowledge so you can learn more about yourself so you can be that best version of yourself. So for you guys, what does that look like for you? So quick recap. Branding, we went through branding and messaging to attract your ideal clients. We talked about the key pillars or themes your business represents. We talked about making sure you know who that ideal customer is. What's that number one problem they want solved in their language? What's your podcast pitch? Now, this is truly your messaging. And then what's your story? And what's the feeling you want associated with your brand? Any questions around that so far? Awesome. So let's dive into marketing. So remember, the branding is going to drive the marketing. So now you have your pillars. Those are themes that you can create content around. And so, what are some of the key phrases and messaging that you want to use? And I know, again, I want you to pause and think, will it resonate and land with my ideal client? So, what are some of the key phrases you might want to use that is in their language? Optimal health, feeling good, simplicity. What are some of the things? So, simplify to scale, right? Streamline to scale. Stopping your own glass ceiling is something I would say. In my client's language, it might sound like, I want to get out of my own way. Okay, so thinking really about everything you create and how does that land in your ideal client's language. Now, this is going to help you create content. Your content nurtures your current audience. That's amazing. We want to continually nurture our current audience so we stay top of mind and we keep serving them. Now, at the same time, we also need to go out in front of other people's audiences and bring in new leads. And so, what PR opportunities, whether it's podcast guesting, guest speaking, featured articles, lives with other people, TV, radio, networking opportunities, where are you putting yourself in front of other people's audiences? So, one, we're creating content and marketing content to nurture our audience. And then we're going out and generating new leads by going in front of other people's audiences. Super essential to do both. And then before you get overwhelmed and try to be on all the channels, where is your actual ideal client hanging out? Market there. So, one of the keys to qualifying is proximity. How can you market in one spot where all of them or the majority of these people are your ideal clients? And one person jumps in. And so then the next person jumps in. So then the next person jumps in. So my ideal client's not on TikTok or Pinterest. So I spend time there and I no longer spend time there because it's not proximity for me. Not all my ideal clients are there. Although I know LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram would be the key ones where my audience is hanging out. And so that's where I'm going to show up myself. And so, even if you're thinking about PR opportunities, think about that as well, or collaborating with somebody. Where are you going to put yourself in front of other people's audiences that have your ideal client in it? Lots of people have asked me to speak or come on shows, yet their audience are not my ideal customers. And our time, we know, is the one thing we don't get back. And it's important for us to use it intentionally. So I respectfully decline. I'd love to share and serve everyone. I do, I would. And I get to help people who help everybody. And so it's important that I stick to serving my audience and showing up where my ideal clients are so that my calls to action actually make sense for them. Does that make sense? Important to show up where your clients are showing up or ideal clients. And then when we are creating our content, we want to have a mixture of them. So we already talked about educational posts. So you may require to educate your audience on why your product or service is important. We talked about having call to action posts. So putting up content where you're actually doing direct calls to action. Send me a DM, book a call, join our event. Then there's engagement posts. You're going to create content around like put a heart below if you agree, or like if you agree, or roll call. Let us know where you're from. You're beginning to train the audience to engage with the post without a giant call to action. And so the most important after that is the value add posts. What value are you adding? If it's always ask, 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 people will tune out. Even coming to events, that's an ask. Even though I know the great value my events offer, it's still an ask. You're still giving your time. Thank you so much for the one thing you don't get back. You've chose to spend it with us today. Amazing, right? So I've done an ask. What is a value add I can also put up? Right? For an example, here's a strategy that I use, and here's the 3 ways to be able to implement it to get you this result, to solve that one problem you need help with. And no call to action, right? Doing some value adds, reels, graphics, whether it's short form copy or long form copy, creating a mixture of all these. And then the one thing I want to make sure that is absolutely clear. Alrighty, we do not post and ghost. And that means putting something up and then just leaving the social channel. First of all, for most people, only about 2%. Yeah, it is funny because we know we do it. We know we've done it, and we know it doesn't really breed the results. You're making all this amazing content, yet no one's going to see it. So when we post online, we actually, and I know for some people, like, I don't want to screw the algorithm, what have you. You got to play the game, right? You want to serve, you have to sell. And in order to do that, we got to play the game of the algorithm. And if you don't want to be on socials, no problem. Own your email marketing, own your website, own your SEO, own your PR. You don't have to own socials. And we still know it's good to have, because almost always people are going to go to your socials before they go to your website to audit you, just like a resume. And so if we are going to lean in and use socials and put up posts and create all this amazing content, please engage at the same time. Engage with influencers who have your ideal clients in their audience. Engage with your current or past clients. Engage with prospects who are potential clients. Engage with people who've engaged on your content. Check your notifications. Go to your sales tracker, leads tracker, and begin to engage with those people authentically. Okay, because what you're doing is telling the algorithm, put my content in front of people like this. And we started to increase this. And we actually now see that sometimes our content is seen more by people who are not following us, which means it's ending up in front of so many other people's eyes in their feed, because we're training the algorithm to say, hey, put our content in front of people like this. And so that's really important for Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and the other channels that you're using. Okay, so what's the rule? No more posting and ghosting. We're going to also engage and play the game and work with the algorithm. Excuse me. Okay, so now you've got people in your ecosystem, you're going out and you're generating new leads. And now, how are we going to consistently nurture these leads until they're ready to buy? And how can you shorten the sales cycle? It's value add conversion events, something just like this. And so, what are some of the events that you can do? Is it going live at least once a month or every week and giving a value add with a call to action and educating people in your audience? Is it a signature masterclass that you're going to run? What we're seeing right now that's working really well is like mini masterclasses to sell into low ticket products. A masterclass, so 3 or more days to sell into mid-ticket products. And then from there, you can upsell. So always building out that ascension model, that introductory offer that gets people in the door, a mid-ticket offer, and a high-ticket offer if you're coaching. Okay, so what are you doing on those socials to nurture your leads other than just posting content? So all these leads are coming into your ecosystem. How are we going to serve them and nurture them? Another good way is doing collaborations with others, online summits, in person events. And again, that's a double. You're nurturing your audience and you're putting yourself in front of somebody else's audience when you can do collaborations or summits. And so, who's somebody that you could partner with that would have your ideal audience, client in their audience, and are not competition, right? So you could collab together. So, starting to think about, now that you have these leads, how are you nurturing them? So now you have all these leads. Where do they go? They're going to go into your pipeline. They're going to go into that tracker, into your relationship tracker, leads tracker, collaboration tracker, whatever you want to call it. A sales pipeline focuses on internal processes and stages. A sales team follows to move the leads through the journey. So now you've got them in the ecosystem. What's the journey you're moving them through? So I just talked about you can run events to nurture them. And so if we were to look at the sales pipeline, the top of it is building rapport. Number one, get to know the person. Number two, you're going to begin to qualify them and ask them questions. I love everyone. I wish I could spend so much time with everyone. And I know my time is limited and I want to speak to those who are qualified, who I can serve. So you got to know what questions you're going to ask them to see if they're qualified. And you want to figure out what are their pain points. And so once you figure that out, you can then invite and move to a pivot point. Okay, so rapport, nurture and qualify, pivot point, and then they might not close right away. So we continue to nurture and serve until we're ready. And so you can have your content with calls to action. You can have conversion events. You can do lead generation online, referrals, podcasting, PR, guest speaking, podcasting, ads. You can boost posts. You can use one-word marketing, lead magnets, collaborating, referral partnerships, networking, all these activities to bring people into your pipeline where you're now going to nurture them and move them from cold to closed or not qualified. So that's your sales funnel. Thoughts or questions on starting that tracker and starting to build your sales funnel and build a pipeline that you can open up and do sales on demand every day because you know where you are in the relationship with those people. So you can decide, is it time to give them a value add? Is it time to learn more about them? Or do I already know what their need is? I know I can solve it, and it's time to do an ask and have a pivot point. Okay, so first we created our branding. Branding is essential because it's going to drive your marketing. Then we're going to work on marketing, internal people in your ecosystems and going out and bringing more people into our ecosystems. Then this is us generating leads. Where do these leads go? Because this is what most people do. They don't build that sales pipeline and tracker, and they're constantly generating new leads and never going deep enough in a relationship to actually get to a pivot point or ask. How many times have you had a pitch in your inbox which was completely irrelevant to you, right? The person didn't get to know you. They probably didn't qualify your profile properly. They didn't check out your website. You were somebody on their list and they sent you a pitch in your inbox and you were like, did you even take a look at what I do? Right. And so we want, and that trust is gone, right? No matter how many times that person comes back, you may not be likely to work with that. So we build rapport, we qualify and nurture, then pivot point, and then when they're ready, they can start with us. If not, we continue to nurture until they are, or if they're not qualified, we let them go. And so you're going to begin to qualify them. Can they afford it? What is their historical buying decision? Can you actually solve their problem? Is it something that you can work with them? And keep remembering to put yourself in front of those audiences that have the majority of your ideal clients in it. So, reminder, they say that only 3% of people are in their buying cycle at a time. So, how can you nurture and support them until they are ready to buy? Relationship building is essential for sales. So, serve, serve, serve so you can sell, sell, sell and leave your impact. Amazing. Any questions from today so far? And then on a scale of 1 to 10, drop in the chat. Let me know how helpful that was for you. So we talked about branding, we talked about marketing, and then we talked about managing our leads so that we can actually build relationships with people and close more sales instead of just generating leads all the time. Awesome. I love it. A 10. Amazing. So this is how we're going to build that sales funnel. And then people come in, they go into your pipeline. And this is where you're going to qualify their relationships and move them into close. So who doesn't want to close more sales regularly and have increased revenue? Amazing. And that is a byproduct of these activities. So if you want to increase sales, you got to own your branding, own your marketing, and own your relationships. Same with selling a product rather than a service. It's still going to be relationships. Sales going to be the same no matter what. So if you are selling a product, you would maybe have two customers. One, you might want to get it into a store. And so you would be looking at building relationships with other stores that would sell your products for you. And then the other one is to the consumer. So selling to an individual online. So if you just reached out and was like, hey, I see that you put up a post and it looks like you're deficient in vitamin 2, you should try this. We never want to give advice unless it's asked for because it won't be received. People's ego comes up and goes, oh, she's trying to fix me. There's something wrong with me. And so it would be the same. You put that person onto your list, you connect with them, you figure out what their need is, you treat them like a human, you have real conversations, and then you can move it to a pivot point or an ask. Now, for you, when you're pitching businesses, you are going to take the time to learn about the business. You're going to go check out their website. You're going to audit it. You're going to look what is their mission, vision, value, and why. And so that when you do write a pitch email to them, it's a custom pitch email on why they would want to have their product in their store because it's aligned with them and what their customer needs. Right? So making it about them and what's in it for them and not about you. Right? So you can do more of a direct pitch if you're reaching to those businesses. And you are probably even more likely to close it if you could connect with the person who's maybe making that buying decision online, say like LinkedIn, and make a connection with them or have somebody refer you to them and then do the ask. Right? We all know we're more likely to buy something when it's referred to us, when somebody's already third party validated it. So if you could get a connection and build rapport with that person, even better, right? So you might want to go shop in the store, ask if the manager is there, connect with them, ask them, say, I'm creating a new product. What type of products do you like in your store? Why do you like them? These would be our qualifying questions. What is it that you're looking for? So that when you go back to pitch, you can sell to the needs that they said, not the needs that you thought they needed. Right? So you still want to build that rapport and get to know them. And that might look like going in, speaking to the manager, or really reading through their website. Is that helpful? Yeah. Awesome. Amazing. Good. Okay. So remember, your branding drives your marketing. Your marketing is going to drive your lead generation. And then those leads need to be managed. And we want to build relationships. The more relationships you can have, the more you can sell, the more you can serve. And so I know for a lot of holistic practitioners, their number one problem is selling because they have a hard time putting themselves out there. But I know you all have a gift that you want to share. And if we don't sell, we can't serve. Okay, it's the hardest thing to wrap our head around. If we are not willing to get out there and get uncomfortable and deal with the ghosts who don't reply back, and deal with the rejection and whatever else comes our way. If we're not willing to get out there and do the hard stuff and get into the selling, we won't be able to serve. And so it's important to understand this and take your time with it and own it so that you can serve and share your gifts. And so if you're getting out there and thinking and making it about yourself, I want you to pause and think about the impact that you can have when you do sell and make it about them. So amazing job today. Any other questions before we wrap up? Awesome. So great work. Again, I invite everyone to book a vision casting call. If you want more support on this, you can book a free strategy call. I'm here to help you. We're live all next week. Business Bliss is the workshop to raise your vibes, own your mind, and start to get more of what you want with less effort and less time. Every single time I teach and do this workshop, I manifest or create or attract something awesome. And so let's have some fun. Let's raise our vibes. Let's own our mind, and let's create more results that will leave us more happy and more fulfilled. So thank you again so much for your time and energy today. And I can't wait to see you back next week. Have a beautiful and blissful weekend. Remember, stay happy, healthy, wealthy. Expect magic and miracles, and what is the best that can happen. We'll see you guys live next week. Thank you so much.